Hi, welcome. It is 8 a.m. I've been up since 2 a.m. I have a coffee. So today I'm going to be teaching you a basic HTML, CSS website tutorial. This is what we're going to be creating today. It's just using HTML and CSS, fairly, basic things that we're going to be learning today. So I'm going to completely start this over and show you how I did everything. So for this one, we're just going to focus on the desktop version and not worry about mobile for right now. Later on, I'm going to do another video about responsive design and media queries. But for now, this is just basic web page for desktop. Okay. So we're gonna go down to the very basics. So first of all, make a folder for your website, and for your first HTML page, you can call it index.html. It's just the standard naming convention. Obviously, you're gonna end up having more pages, or you can have it called home.html, whatever you want. But for now, we're gonna call it index.html, and as you can see, I already have an image folder in here with several images that we're going to be using, and then a CSS folder. So save your index.html, and then create a new page, and we're going to save this as, I'm already in that folder, hold on. We're going to save this one as style.css. That's just, again, standard naming for a style sheet. You may potentially have multiple style sheets depending on how large your website is, but it's not really necessary. So, and also you can do CSS in your index.html. I'll show you this page already. As opposed to linking it here, you can put just a style tag and do it inline that way. Or you can do it individually inside of each tag, but that's old school. I wouldn't recommend it. You can put it directly in here if you're doing just something small, but generally you should have it in a separate document. Okay. First, we are going to set up the page with... So first off, you have to start out with doc type HTML. Then you're going to do HTML. Okay. HTML. Then we want to do a head tag. And then you're going to close the head tag. And then you want to do a body tag. And then close the body tag. And then lastly, close your HTML tag. So inside of the head tag, you can have a meta tag, which is this. There's lots of different things you can do with it. I honestly have no idea what this does, but I was told to do it when I learned this back in the day. So, and then this, you can do language, English. And then you can do other things with the meta tags, like add keywords and stuff for like SEO, but that's unnecessary right now. So, and then lastly, you're going to do title, and this page is going to be called Sharon's Tropical Vacations, because I love tropical vacations. Now, one moment. Okay, so what this title tag does is puts the name up top here, like as you can see in these other websites, that would be in the title tag. Okay, so next inside of the header tag, we are going to link the style sheet. So you want to do link style sheet type equals text/CSS, href, and then you're going to do CSS because it's inside of the CSS folder, and then style.css. Okay, next, okay, so first thing we're going to do is div, which this div is going to be around our entire page. So just kind of a wrapper div, and div is basically just used to section off your page. So pretty much everything is going to be inside of a div or inside of multiple divs. So I like to set one for the entire page. It's essentially the same thing as the body tag because you can call the body tag in CSS, but sometimes it's just easier to have it inside of an ID or inside of a div. So I'm going to label this ID wrap. So there's two different ways that you can label these. You can have them class or ID. ID is generally something that you use for larger areas such as headers and footers. And by the way, just get really basic here. The reason why you're labeling these is so you can call them in the CSS, such as I have here. So for example, the wrap tag that I have here, really just to mention the, whatever you want to call it, hashtag #, is used for to reference IDs, and then the dot is for classes, and then you don't necessarily have to have anything at all. For example, you can just do the whole body tag, or just divs in general, or, you know, an A tag, or anything like that. So for the wrap, we're going to do an ID as opposed to a class because there's only going to be one of them. You can only have one of each ID, whereas classes you can have as many of the same class used multiple times. For example, if you have boxes and you would just want to call them all class box and have all the same style for each of those. But with an ID, you can only use them once. So we're going to do ID wrap, and then underneath that, we're going to do div ID header. And inside this header, we are going to be doing this logo and the blue background. So first, we're going to start with an image tag, which is img. Then you do src, and then we're going to go to the image folder. And then inside the image folder, I have an image called palm tree logo. Now, I might put these photos somewhere you can download, but if they're not there, just pick any sort of image that you would like that looks similar and would fit the size range. So, one thing when you're looking for images, if you're going to have a background other than white, I would suggest looking for a PNG file as opposed to a JPEG, because that way it will take the background of your choosing as opposed to just having a square white box inside of your header. And for this, we are going to give this a class of logo. Again, you could use ID. Really, it's kind of interchangeable. Personally, I just like to use all classes because I just find it easier to remember. But, you know, the general rule is like kind of main important things you're going to use IDs for. So the image tag is one of the only tags that closes in itself. Like there's not a second, you know, such as div where there's a open and closing tag. You just kind of close it like that. And then we're going to do a span tag. We could use either a p tag, span tag. You could put another div in here for your text. There's several different options, or h tags, which is h1 to h6, which is headers, and they kind of range in size, 1 being the largest, 6 being the smallest. But for this, we're just going to do a span because it's just a small amount of text. If it was going to be something larger or something where we wanted there to be like a line break in between each thing, which is paragraph tags. This kind of stays in line, so it will go right next to our logo, as if you had a paragraph tag, it would automatically drop down to the next line. So we are going to call this class title. Okay, and then we're going to close the tag. Okay, so when we refresh the page, oh, hold up, palm tree logo. The one thing you will learn with coding is there is a lot of trial and error and a lot of problem solving. Palm tree logo. See, I have this in here, so what we're going to do is copy that exactly. I got this. I had my index file inside of the CSS folder. Okay, so now that obviously looks ugly and it looks nothing like that. That's where the CSS is going to come in. So first things first, as to kind of reset the whole page, because sometimes unwanted margins and paddings appear that you don't want, so you can kind of do this and situate all of that. Next, we're going to call this wrap tag that we had made earlier. And what I'm going to do with, the only thing I'm going to put in this is we're going to do font family, which is obviously your font, and we're going to do Arial, so that way everything inside of this wrap tag will have an Arial font. As you can see, this just changed. So everything on the whole page is Arial. That way I don't have to go into each tag and fix them all. Next, we are going to call this header div, and what we're going to do with this is we're going to do background color, and we're going to put in this hex value. Now you can pretty much just Google these, and I pulled up this, which has all of the different hex values that you can use. You can also just do simple things such as black or black, red, you know, just to show you. You can do that. Obviously, that's ugly. Also, just like good thing to know is white is 6 Fs and black is 6 zeros. Just good things to know. And also 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, whatever, 6 ones, on and on to different numbers, 6 sixes, 6 fives, or 6 A's, 6 E's, 6 C's. Those are all gray colors. Just good thing to know is you don't have to look it up every single time. But for this, we're going to use I keep forgetting these commands because I have a PC at work and a Mac here, and it's throwing me off like crazy. Okay, so we're going to use this hex value that I chose because it looked tropical. The next thing we're going to do is call the title class, which is our words that we have down at the bottom. And we're going to set this to have a white color. Now this is font color. One of the only things that doesn't have font in front of it is color. So like font family, font size, font weight, but the color is just plain color. So that is that. And lastly, we are going to do font size 30 pixels. So for sizes, you can do pixels, you can do percentages, which is like a percentage of the page or your div or whatever it is. That's kind of good for like responsive design, but that will be another topic. You can also use EMs, which is the length of an M. I like to use those, but the most standard thing to do is just use pixels. So we're going to be using pixels. So that's that. Again, ugly. So now we're going to fix this logo we have here. Don't forget your opening and closing brackets or your semicolons, as you see there, because it can screw everything up. If there's only one there, it probably won't do anything. But say as I take this out, you know, that won't work. So that can get frustrating when you're missing something as small as a semicolon. So keep an eye on those. Keep an eye on closing tags. You know, if you're missing this div tag, you know, the whole thing could get completely screwed up. I'll try it later on when I have more and you can actually tell. But once you get a whole large web page going and you're missing a div tag, it gets pretty frustrating. So for this logo, we're going to do a width of 150 pixels. Again, you could do a percentage if you want it to change based off the size of the page. So such as you want it to get bigger when you do this, and then, you know, but I think keeping it the same for all desktop size is the best way to go. Once we get to responsive design and mobile, we can change that. Next, we want to take this picture a little bit away from the left-hand side. So what we're going to do is padding left. You can do, another way you can do padding is just padding 10 pixels, which will do padding around the whole image. Or you can do padding 10 pixels, 15 pixels, which is up, down, left, right. Or you can do like this, which individually sets each size. So you can do it either way, or you can just do padding right, padding left, padding bottom, padding top. But this, we just want padding left, so the easiest way to do this would just be this. It's the same thing for margins. If you're wondering the difference between padding and margin, margin sometimes won't keep your background color. Like if you're doing a, if we have another div here and I do a margin, it will keep white space, as opposed to if you did padding, it will keep your background color. Okay. Next, we want to add in our nav. So later on, we will get into drop-down menus and making these into buttons and anything else fancy like that. But for today, we're just going to keep it simple. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to set up another div. I'm going to put this div right underneath the header. And we're going to give this one an ID of nav. And then we're going to do a unordered list, which is UL, and then we're going to do LI for each list item. So we're going to have 4 links, and then you're going to close your tag, and then we're going to close the div tag. There is also a ordered list, which sets it up in numbers, and this will do just bullet points. But of course, we're going to remove the bullet points. We're just kind of doing this just because technically it is a list of things, and you should put it in a list. But really, it's going to look nothing like a list. So we're going to just add a few titles in here. Okay. Now, you're going to see this, and it's going to look horrendous. Okay. So you're wondering, how did that turn into this? Well, okay. So, first things first. We're going to reference our ID of nav. And we're going to do background color And I have 555, 555, which is a dark gray. We're going to do a font color of white. Or you could do hashtag FFF, whatever, 6 times. We're going to set this. Well, hold on. Let me show you this first. So there's some like weird thing that happens with. Actually, one more thing before I forget. I also am going to add a padding bottom on this header to make a larger space under these words. Okay, so there's some weird things that happen that sometimes you don't even realize why, and things don't fill out the background color properly, and I'll show you later on when we float some divs and things get all sorts of screwed up. So, something happens with the UL tag where it creates space at the top that it doesn't need. It creates a margin. Who knows why, but it just happens. There's lots of weird things with browsers. So what we're going to do is overflow hidden, or you can do overflow auto, which is going to remove that space. Next, we're going to do nav and then the UL. So this means all the ULs inside of this nav. If you just did UL, it would be all the ULs on the entire page. Okay. So to get rid of those bullets, we're going to do list style none. And then I'm just going to set a margin of 0 for this UL because it does sort of weird things that you don't want. So we're going to remove that. Next, we're going to do, nav li. So all of the li's inside of this nav. And now we're going to start aligning these so they're all next to each other. And the way we're going to do that is float left. So what that means is all of these are going to float up next to one another, as you can see. Now, that doesn't look quite good, so we are going to add a padding to all of the LIs, which is each of these little words or phrases. I'm going to add 10 pixels padding to those, and so they separate, and it's beautiful. Now, the last thing I'm going to do for this specific tutorial is adding a footer since we have made a header. Now, clearly this is going to be right underneath the nav, and that's not going to be how it is eventually, but just to get the whole general page setup going, we are going to do this right now. So in here, I'm going to put this, which is a copyright tag, and we're going to just say Sharon's tropical vacations. Okay. And we are going to style this. So put this down a little bit lower. We're going to call this footer. Another thing you can do to keep this organized is you can do this, which won't affect anything. And you can, you can type whatever you want here. So you could say header styles. So this is, then you could do end of header styles. So that if you're looking for something specific, you know generally where to look. This is a small website, so it's not really necessary, but you know, if you have a really large website, it's probably a good thing to do. And this is what you're going to do in the HTML if you want to be like, this is a, it's good, good lord. It's good when you're learning to remember, like, or if you haven't looked at something in a while, so you know exactly where everything is. For this footer, we're going to do padding of 10 pixels, kind of the same idea as what we did for the navigation, just to make sure it's not all up against the edges. We're going to do the same color as the navigation, which was 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And we're going to set the font color to white. Okay, clearly there will be more content in here, but for the general setup of this website, this is what we have. In my next video, I will show you what goes inside of this page. All of this. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.